Like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional owners of the land on which I'm coming to you. The land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, it's upon their ancestral lands from which One Space Love streams to you.
Welcome to Living Story on the One Space Love podcast. I'm your host, Stephania Papadopoulos. On this podcast, I sit down with inspiring guests who share their wisdom and their lived experience with the work that they're doing to help others let go of old stories, embrace who they truly are, and begin living a story where they feel aligned with purpose, with possibility. My hope is that each conversation reminds us to trust in your own unfolding, because your story is still being written. And welcome to Living Story.
And the best marketing is when something is brought to people that is new, exciting, alive, connects to the wider range of things that are happening in the world of in this moment. And that's for me where the excitement is of like innovation. It's like the capacity to bring through what's relevant, that touches people, that has resonance. And resonance doesn't happen in the mind. Mind is like the last thing that happens around resonance. It's always the body is having an experience, whether it's like my heart's opening or, oh, I feel aliveness or a tingling of excitement, whatever that feeling is, all of that happens inside of the body, not in the mind. So often trying to create a strategy or something through the mind around marketing, around innovation, it doesn't work that way because your mind is actually attaching to a lot of ideas that already exist, whereas innovation has to come through the body.
Welcome, Victoria Bardović, to Living Story on One Space Love podcast. So good to have you.
Thank you.
And I like to start off by asking, could you answer the statement, I am?
I am Victoria Bardović. I am mother, entrepreneur, centralist, and I am a woman who really believes that when a woman follows her instinct and has the capacity to move in life from her body, she can create magic.
I love that. And I love how you put that, because I was so drawn to seeing you speak when I was at Mastery with Miroslav. And I just want to acknowledge Miroslav and say that your talk was so inspiring. And I love how you spoke about it as instinct. Can you take us back to when you first discovered an instinct in the way you navigated your story?
Yeah, I mean, for me, instinct has been an ongoing thing in my life. And I don't think I really recognized it for what it was until I started tracking all of the stories in my life. And I was like, oh, this has always been present. And for me, it's been this difference between what intuition is for people and what instinct is. I feel like for a lot of people mix the two because they always talk about their gut instinct. But for me, it was more this recognition of like, it's the moment of movement. It's the moment of stepping forward from your body, not needing to like divulge things through the mind. And I find intuition is probably more of an aspect of looking at the patterns of your past, what you're feeling, like all these things being brought in. And I'm suggesting that instinct is actually less around feeling and just about this knowing. It's just like the body just comes online and just moves you towards a particular direction. And that's how a lot of my decisions have been made in my life. And one of the first ones that I shared with you guys on the keynote was that, when I was working in corporate many, many years ago, I made a decision to just create this thing called the Wellness Week. And I started bringing this Wellness Week into reality through all of the things that I've been doing. And what that looked like was me just putting something out there into this FTSE 500 company, which for those who don't know, it's kind of like the top 500 companies in the UK, that and actually sharing like, this is what I'm doing, this is what's happening. And instead of going into a space of, oh, I must ask senior leaders, or this is what I need to do, I just made the decision to just move forward. And as I moved forward, what I found is that I had the lead PR woman come and find me at my desk, and instead of telling me you can't do that, what she told me was, actually, I think we want to hire you for the PR team. So it was really about in that moment of just this recognition of like, oh, you can create your own opportunities in this lifetime. And I feel like that's what instinct gives you. And it's like kind of the edge that women can actually work with, because I feel like women have a lot more access to this instinct that I'm speaking to. Because we are deeply feeling beings, we are moving through from like more of the body. And I think this is like some of the things that, you know, we recognize as women are often told, you know, they can't get ahead in life and they need to, they're a lot more socialized in a lot of ways to like meet rules and regulations and things like that. Whereas men can be a lot more ballsy. And I think my invitation is actually for women to recognize that, you know, through the heart, through the sex, through the body, through sensation, there's a capacity to start letting go of the mind and just trusting wherever they're being led.
Yeah, because it sounds like it's more of an embodiment. So it's to distinguish that gut feeling and that intuition to instinct. Is it more of an embodiment that you're saying, that it's something that we learn to feel in our body?
Yeah. Like for me, it is like when your body is louder than your mind. And when your body can respond to life before your mind does. Because there's this idea that, you know, the mind is always leading us and we have to follow whatever we think, and that we have to think before we make a decision. And I'm arguing that actually you can actually move before you start thinking, because there is actually neurons inside of the heart that actually can lead and have their own kind of nervous system that can create movement. And our sexuality has a particular primal nature, and we are always drawn through sense of smell, sense of like visuals, like symbolic energies that come into our awareness. And when we see those things, there is a capacity to move towards that versus, oh, I need to understand this, I need to analyze and look at different aspects of all the different things. It's like, actually, what if the body knew? And what if you could actually move forward inside of your life from that place and recognize that everything that comes with that, any kind of breaking rapport, any kind of pushback, anything like that, is just another feeling that needs to be felt because you made the decision from that place. And the reason that most of the time we have regrets about our decisions is because we think that we've analyzed every aspect of it, and we've looked at what's safe, what's okay, what's right, what's wrong. And I'm suggesting that there's something that lives beyond right and wrong. And that is just the knowing of your body, and that is always putting you into a greater alignment, because the body actually has a greater intelligence than the mind in lots of ways.
Absolutely love how you've framed that. Where did this knowing come from within you to have this capacity to share this? Was there a time that, I mean, I'm sure there's a few points on the path. Was there something that got you in touch with that part of your body?
Yeah, I mean, so many, many years ago, I created a self-pleasure modality, and then created a sexuality school. And when with that the modality, it became like this globally accredited modality. We ended up having an international school where we brought in a lot of different people and trained them as practitioners to be in the world to help people with their sexuality, with their love, their intimacy, their connection. And the process of creating that modality was really what drove me to seeing how this instinct piece works. Because what started to happen was I started to turn up the volume of everything that was inside of me. And it was this process of taking other people through the process of the self-pleasure modality, which I should probably give some context to because it can sound
Yes.
quite saucy. So yeah, it sounds like very, you know, sexual and erotic and alive, but actually for me, self-pleasure is very different to masturbation. Like masturbation works with this concept of like, oh, we're working towards like orgasm, pleasure, arousal. And with self-pleasure, we're more opening up the body through this non-linear capacity. So we're just starting to track what's happening with the sexuality, what's happening with the body, what's happening, where are we closed, where are we open, and you're starting to get a really deep understanding and gauge of your system. And also what I noticed is that when people work with this modalities, they were able to go inside of their body and track what lives underneath their sexuality, which I refer to as Eros. And Eros is, you know, a little bit different. I've went through my sort of 15 years of studying and understanding and working with clients. What I've really seen is that people's sexuality moves from two places. It either is moving from adrenaline, which is often like wounds or like, you know, deep biological needs of survival, or there is this more like higher consciousness. And these people have more of an access to a space to breathe around their sexuality. And for me, this is where the Eros comes in. This is like something that is greater than us. It probably comes from the earth. It probably comes from something deeper than where we are inside of this human body. But it's an upwelling that comes through the body. And then it can has a choice where it point, because it's almost like an energy, a very dynamic energy in the body. that can choose to move towards your sexuality and be expressed in that way, or it can come through and be expressed through creativity or just energy and a vibrancy, vitality that you could say, a life force energy inside of the body. But the people that have that choice of what they do with that life force energy are the ones that are connecting to Eros instead of just the adrenaline that drives their sexuality. And when they're moving through that Eros inside of their life and opening up their body to it, they start to recognize that there is a deeper wisdom inside of the body. So the heart can come online and have its own wisdom. The solar plexus has its own wisdom. Like everything through the central channel that is very loud, sometimes louder than the mind, has its own wisdom to offer you. And so when when I had the experience of going through the process of discovering this modality inside of my own body and then taking through probably hundreds of people through this modality, witnessing them open up to their Eros, open up to their life force and energy inside of their body, I started to track that there was a capacity to move from that place and no longer needing to bring so much data through the mind. And I feel like this analysis paralysis that so much of our society is stuck in is part of the reason why people are stuck in a lot of areas of their life. Like, for example, I work in the realms of relationships and sexuality and dating and all those different parts. And what I hear from so many people is like, dating isn't working, relationship isn't working. But what I often see in that is that most people are trying to find their partner through a list that is in their mind that they've decided based on who they think they are. And actually the nature of relationship is it actually changes us. We evolve through relationship. We become more of who we are through relationship, but that process is letting go of the identity and the ego and listening to what the relationship was. So and then the people that are often that in relationship, I hear from them like, we're just stuck. We fight all the time. There's resentment, there's frustration, or whatever that part is. Often that is coming from this need to lock on inside of the mental space. And so much of what I've been working on with couples over the years is like, can you come and meet in the body and let the bodies communicate to each other before the minds? Because people get stuck in these long-winded processes that are just mental masturbation, really, when they could really just come into the bodies and they could come back to love and then open up to the conversation of whatever needs to happen. But we often try to do it the other way. We're like, oh, we'll talk about this forever and then we might make love on the other side, And I'm suggesting what happens if we come through the body, find safety. It doesn't even have to be lovemaking, but just bring the bodies together, find
Connection,
peace, find that like the resonance, because any conversation that happens without resonance in the body is just more fighting, processing, like carrying on, really. So yeah, it's been really interesting to track this from so many different angles, basically.
Mental masturbation. That is, I love it. And what I wanted to take you from there was just to have that awareness. Is there a point on the road where you came to this, like, this is what I know I want to start working with people and supporting them with, because you embodied it yourself? Was there an aha moment when you realized, I understand the power of all of this? Yeah.
It's probably in the process of writing my keynote, So I wrote a keynote about innovative instinct, which I shared with you guys, like a part of it. But it was the tracking of all the stories put together. I almost felt like, I've been doing like helping people and working in the realms of mentoring and things like that for more than a decade now. And I always knew what people were coming from, but I had never had the articulation of it. And I just tracked that actually there's something underneath the work that I do. So it's not just entrepreneurship and sexuality. It's more like the particular vibration underneath entrepreneurship is innovation. So my aspect of where I help people with is often marketing, because I'm looking at like what is the how do you move your instinct or what's underneath your sexuality, which I believe is our instinct and our knowing, into your innovation, which is whatever you're creating in the world, which is often comes through the sphere of entrepreneurship. So bringing those two together and recognizing that when the aliveness and the truth of our body can move through innovation, something else can be created. And the best marketing is when something is brought to people that is new, exciting, alive, connects to the wider range of things that are happening in the world in this moment. And that's for me where the excitement is of like innovation. It's like the capacity to bring through what's relevant, that touches people, that has resonance. And resonance doesn't happen in the mind. Mind is like the last thing that happens around resonance. It's always the body is having an experience, whether it's like, my heart's opening, or, oh, I feel aliveness or a tingling of excitement, whatever that feeling is, all of that happens inside of the body, not in the mind. So of trying to create a strategy or something through the mind around marketing, around innovation, it doesn't work that way, because your mind is actually attaching to a lot of ideas that already exist, whereas innovation has to come through the body.
Because I remember coming to your marketing online workshop we did at, and what I've studied marketing, and I've been to so many different marketing, courses, and I loved how you put it. It was so refreshing, and I loved, as an entrepreneur, we can have so many different balls up in the air and so many different ideas, and yet the way you described it was really learning how to step out of the box, to stop overthinking all the strategies and more feel into what's relevant, what is going to ignite, innovation and activate and move you in the direction. So do you want to touch on a bit of what, with entrepreneurs having different ideas and so many different things happening at once, what do you guide them with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my process is one of like taking in everything and then throwing it all away.
I love
I
that.
think
Yeah.
like how much of, we spend so much time absorbing content and ideas and all these different things. So it's always important to understand what's happening in the zeitgeist, but also letting all of that go to this, let it almost like digest through the body. And I use that word like purposefully, like digestion is like, how do we let it come all the way through and not just like come through our mind, stay in our mind, and then we try to spit something back out from there. I'm like, okay, take it through the mind, take it through the understanding of what's going on in the world, but then take it all the way. Take it all the way through the body, so let it actually digest and be, let go of as well. Because from there, it's like you are in an understanding, but you're not trying to drive from that place. And my process is one of like, okay, what are the paired narratives that are in the world that people can connect to through who you be? And like I've just explained, mine are more around instinct and innovation, or Eros and entrepreneurship. Those ones that tend to be where my people live. But the capacity to bring those two together is almost like where a new idea can be born. And the best ideas are actually where people have some form of being able to hold on to what is actually in the real world. When people try to bring an idea through that has no understanding of where it lives inside of people's reality already, then it tends to not land, because it's almost like too far out of people's consciousness. Whereas if you try to bring two things in, like the idea that's coming into my head right now is like a spork, like a fork and a spoon that comes together and it creates a spork. Like that is like, that makes sense to people, because it's like you've created an invention, but you've brought it through the lens of like, here is a fork and here is a spoon, I've put them together, and that now has somewhere to live inside of people's reality. Whereas if you just created this weird shaped fork, or that's not quite a fork, it doesn't quite land. So there's this sense of like, how can you bring through these narratives and pair them together to make sense? A better example would probably be something more like where Airbnb meets Uber or something like that, and it's like, where do the and then there'll be a creation that an innovative creation that comes out of those things. So people are like, oh, okay, I understand what Airbnb is, I understand what Uber is, like, how does that come through? Something we created for I have an event called Beyond the Bedroom, which is a sexuality and relationships and love and dating, all the topics around that. We have 3 speakers come in and they speak on stage, and it's a beautiful evening with champagne and people sharing like conversation and stories around those topics. And one of the things that we did was really just pair what are the narratives that make this make sense, so it was kind of like the goop, so a conversation that Gwyneth Paltrow has been having around sexuality and sexual wellness, say like TEDx, because it was like, where does like conversations being spoken about from stage meet something that people already understand. So these are just like narratives that come together to make people understand what it is they're going to experience. And the more we can like have, or the other one we were using was like like less like a workshop, more like a cocktail party. So it's like a cocktail party meets a TEDx, you know? So it's like really just elevating what TEDx is inside of that way is more of the experience that people are having when they're coming to a Beyond the Bedroom event.
Mm. Well,
Mm.
let's go there. Beyond the bedroom. How did this come to life? Like, where did that birth from?
Beyond the Bedroom has been around in a different format called Enlightenment in the Bedroom for over a decade now.
Okay.
And I've just revamped it and brought it to life in a different way. So something that I have been really passionate about is more around stories. So Bardović, our surname is actually, Bard means storyteller. And Ović is actually like the Serbian aspect of our name, which means like the children of, so it's kind of like the lineage of story. And I believe that's really what shapes our culture. So that's really where my curiosity lies and what interests me around like sex, intimacy, relationships. It's like, how do we pass those things down? How do we gain the wisdom of those that have come before us to actually know how we can come together with more ease? I would say some of the biggest challenges that humans have in life, doesn't matter if they're in business, family, romantic relationship, whatever they're doing, actually boils down to relationship. And I don't think that we're going to learn relationship through a set of rules of like, here's a set of rules and that's how you're going to learn how to be in relationship. What I'm looking for is like, what are the stories that define relationship? And how can I see myself inside of a story that is told by anybody? And how can I discover more about myself and how I relate through other people's stories? And what I find that some of the universal beauty of storytelling is that there is something for all of us, no matter whether we're in business or relationship or family or with our children or whatever that situation is, we will always have a capacity to see ourselves inside of story. And so when somebody shares a story, and it's usually a story of like coming of age or rite of passage or discovering more about who they are as a sexual, vivacious being, something comes alive inside of all of us. And that's really what Beyond the Bedroom is about. It's like, how do we share those stories? Because so much of this conversation is taboo, is not allowed in public forum, is only, and it's so hard to get access to those deeper, intimate stories inside of the world. And so for me, it's just about, and we don't share them online because they are personal and they are tender. And this is a space for those type of conversations. So, if people enjoy depth, if they enjoy, really getting to know themselves in a new way, this is a space for those people.
I like that. So it's very intimate. And why do you feel that we find it so difficult to have these conversations? I just wanted to ask, that just felt like,
I mean, it's such an interesting thing, isn't it? Like, as soon as we go into the realm of the body, it is so deeply unknown. We do not understand as human beings how Eros works, how that impulse or draw to another being sexually, romantically works. We still don't know. We've been on this planet for how long? We still have no idea how it works and why it shows up in the way that it does. We have no explanation for it, and it can show up in the most strangest ways. We're attracted to somebody that looks a certain way, or we're not attracted to someone that looks very similar. Like, it's very confusing for people. And I think that also what creates inside of that is because it's so confusing for people, there's actually a lot of violence and trauma and challenge. And actually sex and sexuality has been used as a weapon in our society for a very long time now. And so it is this capacity to shift from seeing it as something that it can be used for power over people and actually recognize that it can be brought into so much light if it is brought out of the shadow. But most people are terrified of even talking about it because it can bring up so much feeling and discomfort and unknown. So that's been a big journey for me in this lifetime, is recognizing how it can be palatable for people to really receive the wisdom of what this Eros is wanting to communicate with them.
And I think you make it so accessible how you do explain it, that I think, I want to just acknowledge you with that, because it can be something that people feel shame around or, embarrassed. And I think you make it relatable, as you said, to other things in our lives that we can understand and hear what you're saying and feel it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, tell me about what's coming up and what are you working on at the moment? What you've got some products available as well. Tell me what's exciting you at the moment.
Yeah, so I have Yoni Elixir. That is my women's organic lubricant.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very deep prayer of a project.
Mm.
It is something that I create purely with my hands, and it has some really beautiful organic oils in, but it also has some herbal infusions in that which help
Mm-hmm.
women. And they help women with like toning their uterus, so it relieves like period pain. It also helps women with balancing pH, so it sort of works with any kind of thrush or imbalances that are happening with the yoni, can help reduce those. It also helps them enhance their libido. So I have like ashwagandha in there, raspberry leaf, sage, powder arco. Like there's some really beautiful things that really relax the nervous system and help women access more of their sensuality, which can help them access more of their eros, which in turn helps
Mm.
them access more of their decision making and more agency in their life. And that's really something that I feel very passionate about, is the capacity for women to really hear what's happening inside of themselves, because it's when the external noise becomes louder than what's happening inside, that's when we have things like body image issues or challenges with really owning our desires or going for what we want or having more of the soul work inside of our lives that we desire. So this is
Mm.
a product that really helps women connect into that place. So I have my product. I'm also working with Beyond the Bedroom, so we're franchising that all the way up the coast again.
Yeah.
We
And
currently
around the
have one
world.
around the world, yeah.
Yes.
So we have one in Miami and Florida. We have one in Dublin and Ireland. We have one in Sydney and Gold Coast. We're extending it more and more all the time. So it's a really
Mm.
exciting project because it's one that it just brings women together, especially, and also allows us to create more of an impact in the world with this kind of conversation, because it is so
Beautiful.
much bigger
Yeah.
than just one event,
Yeah.
and it helps people tap in from all different aspects, which is really exciting. What else
Mm.
did I want to share with you on that? So yeah, I mean, there's many things going on. Also, I'm doing my keynoting, which is, around innovative instinct. And that is kind of my life's work just coming together to be shared for entrepreneurs, for small business owners, and just really helping them access more of that entrepreneurial spirit and staying alive into like where they want to go, how they can actually feel their fulfillment that they get from their entrepreneurship. Because a lot of
Mm.
time I see, and myself included in this, I was like chasing something from the wrong. It's like I climbed the wrong mountain, you could say. And
Okay.
I think like a lot of entrepreneurs that I speak to have a very similar experience. It's like they're going after a certain goal and they've achieved the goals, and they're like, oh, this isn't it. And for me,
Mm.
that's what I'm actually interested in. It's like, how do we get so quiet inside that we can actually hear where we need to be going in all given moments?
Beautiful. And you do some one-on-one work as well with clients?
I do. I'm mostly at capacity with my one-on-one work now, but I
Okay.
do help like business owners and usually women access more of the work that they want to do, because I have like a
Okay.
obviously background in marketing as well as entrepreneurship as well as Eros. So it's kind of like this, accumulation of all those pieces together. But I find that usually my coaching spots get booked up very quickly. But yeah, I mean, if somebody is interested and they're listening, like I'd love to hear from them, because I often just help people
Mm.
without working anyway, just give them a little bit more
Mm.
direction of where they want to go. Yeah.
Can we just touch a little bit more on the Sydney event, because it's with the beautiful Rachel Rowlett as well? Yeah, let's just chat about it's in Glebe coming up in July
Yeah. So
18th. Yeah.
yeah, 18th of July, we're going to Sydney. It's at the Glebe Town Hall. It's going to be an epic event, really. Like, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. There's champagne. There's also the other person that's speaking is Susie Kim, and she is on the
Yep.
Today Show all the time. She's eHarmony's top dating and relationship coach. And
Mm.
so she's going to be sharing some wisdom of her own. She's also a really good friend of mine. And yeah, we have a lot of banter together. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of joy in the room and a lot of
Yeah.
juicy conversations. And I feel like that's what the welcome is, and what the invitation is for me is like, if you are somebody that likes to go deep, if you are tired of surface level events, if you want to meet the others, meet the ones that are actually willing to have the conversations that can go in any direction,
Yep.
like the room is for you.
Mm.
Yeah.
And how can people get tickets?
So if you just type in Beyond the Bedroom Sydney, you'll
Okay.
find it on that on Google. That would probably be the best way for people to find it that are listening.
Thank you so much. I want to just ask you one last question before we wrap
Yeah,
up. And there's so much more I could talk to you about. I love chatting with you. Thank you, Victoria.
no worries.
What would be something you wanted to leave the listeners with, one insight in living their story?
Yeah. I think to live your story, you have to really commit to your story.
Mm.
I think to commit to your story, the more you can live through your body and actually just like
Mm.
choose your story instead of sitting on the sidelines of your story, And I think that analysis paralysis that I was speaking to is like, if you're having the experience of like, oh, I'm not fully in the story of my life, I'm not the main character of my life yet, then maybe this message is for you to just really get in touch with your instinct.
Thank you so much, Victoria Bardović, for joining me on Living Story on One Space Love.
No problem. Thank you.